The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network. The Women of Golf show is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, with insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, helping you improve your game from tee to green. Good morning, welcome to the Women of Golf, the #1 women's golf show around the world, with host Ted Odorico and Cindy Miller. Join them as they interview some of the best players from the Epson, LPGA and Legends Tour, and so many others helping to elevate women's golf. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Season 12 of the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are the hosts here on the Women of Golf Show. Good morning, Cindy. How are you? I'm doing very well. We got a great show. We've got a good friend of ours coming back a little bit later on in the broadcast, Debbie O'Connell, a great LPGA professional and a mindset coach, speaker, and author, and all those other wonderful accolades. But she'll be joining us on the second half. But first, we're going to jump into another No B.S. zone this week, and we're going to discuss boundaries, push, don't push, and when to ease up. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things. And we're really going to focus on, Cindy, around the junior golfers, because this is the next generation's coming up, and we were just having a very colorful conversation about that off air. We can't bring all of that on air, but we may bring some of it. So we'll talk about it in the morning. But we want to thank everybody first off for joining us each and every week. We love having you tune into the broadcast. And the best way to find us is if you go to the iGolf Sports Network YouTube channel. So iGolf Sports YouTube channel, all of the shows, and even some of the short little snippets and personal interviews. Some of our guests are up there as well. So go and subscribe. It's a great platform. All of the stuff there, Cindy and I are doing our best to pump up some great content for you. So I hope you'll go and do that. You can also get it on Spotify as well. If you go to spotify.com and just search Women of Golf, you'll see that there. And for those of you that don't have time to catch the video version, not a problem. If you want to listen to the audio version, you can go to Spreaker.com. All of the current shows, as well as all of our archive shows, are there as well. And basically, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can catch us there as well. So we're all over the place, Cindy. Anywhere they want, no excuses, no excuses whatsoever. But we're going to get into our conversation in the No BS zone. And I chose this one, Cindy, because I really was thinking about you. But before we do that, I want to give you an opportunity, because you've been recognized here lately, and you kind of let it slip a few weeks ago. But as I said to you just a moment ago, I wanted to wait till it was official before you. So what were you recognized for? Tell us a little bit about it, and how did it go?
Well, it's really kind of funny. 50 years after I walked onto the University of Miami, I got inducted into their Sports Hall of Fame. And I got a call last September from this guy from the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame. And he left me a message, and I thought, I wonder why he's calling me. Maybe it's because of Rick Remmert, because Rick Remmert was a friend of mine who got inducted into the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame. And I thought, does he want to get a quote from me about Rick? And so I called the guy back, and he said, we want to induct you in the Sports Hall of Fame. And I was like, that was 50 years ago, really? And so I thought, why now? And it's funny. It's just so, I was shocked. And I got off the phone, and Alan, my hubby, which, if you listen to our show, you know that Alan and I both played on tour, and Alan is totally opposite of me. He's shy and quiet and, just wants to hit balls, and I'm the competitive control freak lunatic. And he just started to smile, and he said, your coach Norm has been trying to get you in the Hall of Fame for like 3 or 4 years, and they keep voting you down. I was like, oh, really? And so for our listeners, I got a call in August that I was going to be inducted into the LPGA Professionals Hall of Fame. And so I thought, oh, So now Miami thinks I'm good enough because I'm being inducted in the LPGA Hall of Fame. So now they voted me in. So
Right.
that was like, oh, well, now I'm good enough for you because the
Right.
LPGA. So I was a little bit like, oh, okay, thanks, right? But
Right.
the story is great because I was a walk-on.
Yeah.
And when I sat back and thought about it, the story's even better because I went to an LPGA Tour event when I was 17, and I watched Laura Ball hit balls. And I didn't start playing until I was like 14, 15. I didn't really like golf. The only reason I started to play is because the cute boys in the pool started to call me 10-ton Tessie. So I, of course, stopped swimming, and I didn't have any choice because my parents played golf, so I had to do something at the golf course. So I started to play. And then the pro said, oh, she could be pretty good. So my mom and her friends took me to a tournament, and I saw Laura Ball, and I was like, oh, I want to do what she does, and I want to kick her butt. And so I didn't know how I was going to turn pro and kick her butt, and there was no internet. So I wrote to Ben Hogan Company because I played their golf clubs, and Golf Digest magazine because I read their magazine, and I asked if they knew of any colleges that had women's golf teams. And I thought they would write me back. And it took a few months, and they actually did write me back. And the list of schools was very short, but the
Sure.
University of Miami was on the list. And of course, if you live in Buffalo, where do you want to go?
Right.
Suntan you with palm trees and pools. And so Isabella Hutchinson, the director of athletics, wrote me back, and she said the golf team they had a golf team, and the worst person on the team had a 5 handicap, and I had a 14, but I probably wouldn't make the team, but I was welcome to come down and try. And so I never met Norm. I never talked to Norm. I never visited the school. My parents didn't even take me. A mutual friend was a captain for Eastern Airlines who had a cottage at the beach here, and they lived in Coral Gables. So they took me down on a plane that he was flying with his family and dumped me off at my dorm. My dad said, you have 1 year to earn a scholarship or you have to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Lawrence from Canton, New York, was recruited, and I had met her at the New York State Women's Amateur that summer. So I found her. I said, take me over to meet this golf coach who I'd never met, never talked to. But Isabella Hutchinson said he said that I could play. So I met Norm, and I said, you said I could play. Is that true? And he said, yes. So he changed my life because he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, I practiced, drove him nuts. Can I get a scholarship? Can I get a scholarship? And he finally said, shut up. Yes, you can get a scholarship. And so we won back-to-back national championships my junior and senior year. I was an All-American. My senior year, I was the #1 player on the team. Again, my whole life is different because he said yes to me. And the story, I met Alan because of that. Everything is different because I was a teacher. I was going to major in business. And the night of the Hall of Fame, which was last Thursday, my first roommate, Sue Farber, was there at the Hall of Fame. I hadn't seen her since I was a roommate of hers. And I was going to major in business. And she's like, you don't want to do that. Major in phys ed. You're a golfer. Major in phys ed. I'm like, I don't want to teach. Well,
Right.
now I'm in the LPGA Professionals Hall of Fame because I'm a teacher, So my whole life is different because of that.
Right.
So that was what was so cool.
Yeah, and it's a great story. I didn't know all of the details. I know you shared some of it over the years, and it just goes to show you, and it kind of goes to what we were talking about, before we came on air. And that is, if you want something in life, no matter what it is, whether it's your business life, whether it's your personal life, you have to be willing to pursue it. And that's why you always talk about pursuing it. And it's just one of these things where, you just can't sit in the sidelines. You have to get out there. You have to be aggressive. I mean, you have to do it the right way. You can't just, you can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but you can't be so much that you're driving everybody crazy. But you have to be a little bit aggressive if you want to get ahead in life. And you've obviously, fast forward, years later, you're being recognized for that in not just with the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame, but with the LPGA as well. And so you're getting recognized, and that's not just from sitting on the sidelines. That's from working your butt off and doing the things that you needed to do to be successful. And so congratulations to you, and And I'll extend that to the Miller family, because just that's another trophy, if you will, figuratively speaking, that you can put up on the mantle as a beacon, if you will, for the family. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that. But yeah, it's just one of these things. And so we're going to talk about something along this lines in the No BS zone. And we're going to talk about really juniors. And the first question I'm going to throw at you is this: is, as a junior, what is, or as a parent rather, what is your junior's interest? Are they just interested in casual play, or are they looking to go for the green? In other words, what's their why? Why do they want to play golf in the first place? And I think that's the first and foremost thing you have to ascertain as a parent with your junior, correct? And maybe you could just share a little bit about that.
I totally agree. And I think, number one, they have to have fun and they have to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a parent, you just have to be so careful. And please don't push your child. Please don't look at this as free college.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we stopped being Under Armour league directors is I can't stand the parents.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article teaching juniors firing parents.
Yeah.
I cannot stand the fact that parents think their kids are going to be, at that time, the next Tiger Woods and Michelle Wie. There are so many parents that just don't get it, and their kids are going to be mentally messed up. And there's so many kids that are mentally messed up because their parents want them to be somebody they're not. And you have to stop. Just stop.
Yeah, you have to let the child decide what it is that they want to do. And they might start off playing casually. Maybe one of the parents or both of the parents play golf, and they've kind of say, I'd like to try that. And that's fine. Get them out there, as early as they're interested. Don't force them, but or you can certainly introduce them to it at an early age. But let them sort of lead and guide you where they want to go. And if they've, maybe you've taken them to an event at some point, or maybe they've seen something on television and it sparked an interest, and they say, hey, you know what, I maybe like to try that. That's okay. You can kind of, and I think, and we're going to get into that in a moment or two, but there is some healthy pushing, and you have to know when to push and when not to push. And that's really the trick for a lot of parents. But I think the first thing is, as we would both agree, is you have to establish the why. Why are they wanting to play? Is it just a general interest, or is there a vested interest in wanting to maybe become a professional or some other, level of player? So once you've established that, and let's say we're going to take this scenario that they're wanting to play a little bit more at a higher level. And that doesn't necessarily mean to the LPGA or any other tour. It just maybe means collegiate golf, whatever the case may be, maybe for their high school team. You've got to start setting boundaries. And what I mean by that is how much time, and again, you have to let them lead a little bit, but how much time are they going to dedicate to practice? And then give them time to do other things, other activities as well. So don't just corral them in and say, okay, well, if you want to be on the tour, you've got to do this. You've got to bust your buns every day, because then it gets to the point where they get burnt out. And that's where you're going to, is where you were just talking to about, and that is pushing them too hard. So I think setting boundaries initially, and that should be done, in my opinion, if you're wanting to play in some sort of competitive golf. I think it's very important to get connected with a good golf coach right from day one. And that's something where you want to interview somebody like yourself who has the skill set and has the knowledge to help guide them in the path that they want to get that going right from the get-go. What do you think?
So I've got,
I know that's a lot to unpack, but
and I've got the perfect example. And so I've got a young man who's in 9th grade, whose dad is a pretty good player, who both of them say he wants to play D1 college golf, who came to us a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, who said, I want to play D1 golf. Okay, what do you shoot? And said, oh, we shoot in the 70s. Well, that's not what you're shooting in tournaments. So I said, okay, I can work on planning stuff. Alan can work on swing. Came in for 2 lessons, has a different swing. We believe it needs to change the swing, but was in the middle of the summer. So this was last summer, we'll say. Comes in twice, plays in more tournaments, gets through it. You know, Alan said, just do this for the summer, and then come in the fall and the winter and work on your swing. Doesn't come in the winter at all.
Yep.
Then reaches out a month and a half ago, says, okay, now I'm ready to work. So we give him the personality and the motivation assessment. Does not come in to go over it. Comes in for one lesson. Don't hear back from him. The dad texts me and says, oh, we're at a hurricane tour event at Disney. Oh, okay. Doesn't sign up for the program I tell him to sign up for. Shoots 99.89.
Wow.
Okay. So I forgot about looking, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go look. So then I text both of them and I go, so I saw what you shot. How many fairways, greens, and putts did you have? So it took him a while to get back to me and said, you know, I really didn't hit it that bad. I'm like, okay. 99.89. So something, you know, what happened? Did a squirrel come and get your ball? So clearly delusional, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, well, when you coming in? You know, we're still going to work on this. And when you come in, I need you to bring your assessment. Well, that was over a month ago that I took it. Where would I find that? Okay, so clearly clueless.
Yeah.
Says, well, I said, well, it was sent to you in an email. Go look for it in the email, print the assessment. Well, I'm playing, there's no lessons available. I go, well, it's really busy, but there's a group lesson on Saturday. Sign up for the group. Well, I'm playing in a tournament at Orchard Park. I said, okay. I said, how smart is it for you to keep shooting 80 and putting that on your resume? Maybe we should come for the lesson instead of playing in the tournament. Well, I like this golf course.
Right.
Okay. I said, well, the lessons, there's one at 9 and there's one at 10. You're probably going to play in the afternoon. We teed off afternoon, did not come for the lesson, shot 89.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that says, so there's a point to this. And if you're a junior and you're listening, okay, shoots 89, then gets back to me and says, you know, I really wasn't nervous and I didn't hit it that bad. So twice I didn't hit it that bad. Has not broken 89.
Yeah.
So there comes a point with my little it box. You have to get off the nail. You know, there's 3 things in the box: a nail, a mirror, and a seed. You want to play D1 college golf, you're in 9th grade and you're shooting 99.89, you better stop putting those numbers on your resume because nobody's going to look at you. No one, not even D3. Okay.
Yeah.
So get off the nail. Then you have to look in the mirror. Second thing in the box. Third thing in the box is a seed. So the dad texts me and says, oh, well, I'll get back to you on Monday. We'll see when we can get together. I said, no, I'm available Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7:30. Oh, well, we're doing workouts on Monday and Thursday. Oh, okay. I'm available Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7:30. Oh, we'll come Thursday at 7:30. I said, you're going to have to leave early on Thursday? Oh, no, this is more important. Okay. Bring the assessment with you. So again, there's my boundary. And so I have this thing called the give-a-rip meter. Now, at this point, I'm the one setting the boundary. If you say that you really want to play D1 college golf and you're in 9th grade and you're shooting 99.89 and you've only been in for 3 lessons in the last 9 months and you're saying this, you're not doing what you're saying and you're not willing to look in the mirror of the it box. And that's okay. But if you're not willing to do that and work your butt off, then there's a disconnect here. And then I'm probably not your coach and neither is Alan.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting on Thursday. and that's okay, because I don't need your money and I'm not going to try to talk you into doing something you don't want to do. Or you're going to do this process and you're going to work your butt off and we're going to get what you want.
Yeah, I think, just to add this point, and you're 100% correct in your example. I think what happens with, and it's not just the parents, but this young man as well, he's thinking more about the end result. In other words, I want to get on D1 or I want it, whatever his long-term goal is. But he's not focusing on the process. In other words, he doesn't think about what it needs to get to that. So it's fine. You want to be D1? Great. what do I need to do? And he's coming to, or should be coming to, someone that can get him there. Whether it's you and Alan, or whatever the case is, or if it's somebody else. The problem is he has a different priority. His priority is, I want to get into these tournaments. But as you pointed out, what he's doing is he's actually setting himself up for failure intentionally, because even though he doesn't realize it, because what he's doing is he keeps putting that scorecard out there of 89, 99, whatever the case may be. And when these colleges start to look at that and they say, and what's more important, a college coach can work with a score that may not be as good as maybe another player's, but if they see the determination in that player, that they're trying to improve, that they're taking steps, that they're willing to make sacrifices in order to get to that better score, they'll willing, because I know coaches that have done that. I'm not saying necessarily 89, 99, but I'm saying that I've had players that maybe were in the low 80s as opposed into the 70s, but the personality was as such, they knew that, okay, I can work with this person. This person's willing to show up, just like as you gave in your comments earlier about yourself. Even though you weren't quite there at that particular time, they saw, okay, this person does have what it takes to put in the effort. So we're going to give her a chance, and ultimately look how it worked out for you. So yeah, you've got to set boundaries. The coach also has to set boundaries as well. But there's a clear example, parents, again, of, if your child is not willing to put in the effort, then you have to say to them, you have to have, as you said, that come to Jesus moment with them, even before the coach, and say, look, are you really serious about doing this? Because if so, we need to get some help, because this is above my pay grade. We need to go somebody here. If you don't like them or you want to deal with somebody else, that's fine. But you need to come with somebody that's been down that path before and knows what needs to happen, what doesn't need to happen. And I want to move on, because I don't want to get got too much on this, but that's a great point that you bring up and a great example that you use. I think also too, one of the other things that they need to understand is, and this is where the coach really is important, is learning to split time between with instruction, whether it's on or off the golf course. So you can't just be on the range beating balls all the time. You've got to get some real on-course experience. So how do you define that? What decides, from a coach's perspective, how do you sort of formulate how much is the right amount of time to spend here and how much time is needed to spend over here?
Well, I think they have to know, they have to have a pre-shot routine. They have to be able to aim at different targets. When you're on the range, okay, let's back off. Let's practice your pre-shot routine. I want you to hit a 50-yard shot at this target, and then back off, and let's hit a 75-yard shot, and then let's practice and do that. And then, let's go play 5 holes, and let's see how we do.
Yeah.
And mix it up. Absolutely, you have to do both. But first thing is you have to be able to hit the shot.
Yeah.
And then let's go hit the shot on the golf course. And let's play 5 holes or 9 holes and keep score. And then let's go play 9 holes, keep score, and play a match against somebody. Mm-hmm. And now let's go play in a tournament and keep upping the ante each time.
Yeah.
Just to test them.
Yeah, and you want to do that, and you want to have them so that they're, especially playing against somebody that's better than them, because it gives them an opportunity to want to strive, say, okay, I want to try it, not just to beat this person, but I want to try to at least be as good as this person, and then you, like you said, keep it up in the ante. I want to move on to this one, because this really would have boded well in a conversation with the parent and also the child that you were talking about a few moments ago, and that is really how many tournaments or events per year, and who decides the schedule. See, this would have been a very good opportunity for this parent and the student, this young man, to come in and speak with you and say, okay, I want to play some tournaments this year. I want to get into some events. How many should I play, and how much time should I dedicate to what we're going to work on, and how do I find the right balance? Because I do want, and it is important that he does play in some events, no doubt. But really, is this a conversation that he needs to have with you, let's say, if he's chosen you as the coach? Or is this something where he comes in and says, okay, I want to play in 9 events this year, and how can we work around, you around what I want to do? What's the conversation like here?
Well, it's funny, because we have a program called, called the Player Development Program. And we have tried in the past to have a sit down with the parent and the child to say, okay, how many local tournaments do you want to play? How many state tournaments do you want to play? How many national tournaments do you want to play? And the parents just think they know more than I know, or Alan knows. I mean, they just don't get it that, hi, you know,
Yeah.
Alan won more amateur tournaments. He was a number one amateur in the country, won the Northeast, the Southeast, the Canadian Amateur, the Trans-Miss. You know, you
Right.
don't get that wherever you want to go, he's been, and I've been, and the U.S. Open and the Masters. They just don't get it, and they want their kid to play everywhere. So then you
Yeah.
just go, okay, I'm going to watch you crash and burn,
Yeah.
and they do. So I don't understand it.
And I think it's important to that parents as well as the student that they understand their limitations. Now, that doesn't mean they can't aspire to be better, as we've talked about, but they have to understand their limitations, at least where they are in the moment. Because again, you know, playing in these tournaments, he obviously was not tournament ready. You know, he might be hitting a decent ball, but he doesn't know how to put the game together. You could be the best ball striker in the world, and we've seen this even at the highest levels of golf. I mean, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but you know, you look at a Luke Donald. I love Luke Donald. He was a great player, incredible ball striker. David Ledbetter did a great job getting him to hit those shots pure and down the middle of the fairway. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, how many events did he hit? How many majors did he win? You know, you look at the end scorecard. He's not one of the top players in the world for a reason, because yeah, he can hit a pretty shot, but he couldn't put everything together enough to beat the other guys that were out there. And so again, what's important to you? Do you want to be a pretty looking, have a pretty looking swing out there, or do you want to win tournaments? Look at Lee Trevino. Lee Trevino had one of the most unorthodox swings out there in golf, but he could play like nobody's business, and he won a lot of events, including majors. There's a reason for that. It's about how do you play this game. Golf is a game. It's not, if you just want to be a range rat and just hit pretty shots out there all day, go and do that if that's what you want to do. But if you want to play events, you've got to be willing to learn how to put all that together. So understanding limitations, and this is getting to the question I had at the very beginning, and I want to ask you this, and is it okay to push the player? And if so, why or why not? And how much do you push them?
I think it depends on their personality. You know, I think a high D, you can push a little more. You can tick them off because they're going to tend to go, what'd you just say to me? And fight back.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if they're a high S, you got to be careful. You can't offend them because they might cry and run away.
Right.
Or a high C, you know, you can't offend them. But a D or an I, you can tick them off a little bit and they're going to fight back. So you got to be careful of their behavior style. So that's my answer to that. I mean, you got to be careful because you got to know the child. And then you got to know the parent.
Yeah.
And the parent needs to know the child. The parent doesn't realize that they could be screwing their child's mind up. And they think the kid should be like them, and they're not.
Yeah.
So you just got to be careful. It's very, you know, you got to have a balancing act going on the whole time.
Yeah, it's like a dance. You know, it's really like a dance. You have to figure out how, you know, is it going to be a slow waltz? Is it going to be a little tango? Is it, you know, you have to decide. Yeah, exactly. You got to, metaphorically, you have to look at it that way. And you're right. It's just as important to not only have the conversation with the junior to find out where they want to be and what their future aspirations are, but also with the parents. You know, if the parents are going to come to you as their coach and say, okay, we want to go here. This is where our child wants to go. How can you help us? Then you have, as a parent, you have to get out of the way. You have to be willing to trust the process that the coach is going to put out there. And if you're not comfortable with it, then have that conversation ahead of time, out of the earshot of the child, and say, okay, I don't know about that, or I don't agree with that. Have that conversation. But then it's just like parents raising a child. You have to come together and say, okay, we've made a decision. We're going to stick by the decision. We're going to work together, because you know that child's going to push back. And if one of us caves, we're done. And right. And so
there's another part to this. So the parents, that all these kids go to tournaments, and all the parents talk, and they say, oh, well, this kid's playing better than my child, and I wonder where that child goes to school, or who's the coach. And they all talk to each other, and then they think, well, my kid's not playing that well, so maybe we need to change coaches. And we need to go over here, and then we're going to go over here, and then you change coaches, and your kid gets confused and they don't know what they're doing. So just be careful and watch that you don't listen to the committee of they,
Yeah.
who are they, everybody that's got a different opinion, and you get totally confused because then your child's confused. And sometimes when you make changes, it's not always for the best. It
Yeah.
can get worse.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, you know, it gets to a point, I think, for the coach that it can be very frustrating because you're trying to put that process together to get the result that they want, but at the same time they're the ones putting up roadblocks, and you're having to find and navigate around that, and it can be very challenging. And you want to be able to, I mean, every coach wants to have their students accomplish and reach the goals and beyond if that's what they want to do, but you can't do that if you're not in a position to trust the process. And if you don't agree with that, you have to give it a reasonable amount of time. If you've been working with somebody for a long period of time and you're not moving in the right direction, then maybe that person isn't the right one for you. And that's reasonable, that's fair, and that's just. But if you're somebody that is, you know, um, coming in and, okay, this week I'm going to come to Cindy. Well, I don't really, I didn't play very well in the event, so I'm going to call Ted up. I come over to Ted and, yeah, it's okay, but no, I'm going to come back to Cindy, and you're hopping all over the place. Then you get to a point where the child gets confused. They're getting mixed signals, mixed messages. This is why it's so important for parents as well as the child to have an interview with that particular coach or professional or group of professionals if they're working with a team. And that is to understand, to make sure the personalities melt together. Because again, if you've got somebody that's very timid as a student, and you've got a little bit more overbearing coach, it can be very intimidating, and they're not going to receive the message. Sometimes it can be the opposite. If you've both got a snarky kid, and then you got a tough as bones coach, and they're butting heads all the time, that doesn't always necessarily. So you have to find the right balance, and I think it's important to do that. So for you juniors out there that want to aspire, this is a great opportunity to listen to what we've just been talking about, to go back, after the program and listen to what Cindy was saying, because Cindy and obviously her husband, Alan, who've been around the tours for many, many years and have gone through the ropes and the same challenges that you're all looking to do. You want to hear the message that Cindy's put forth this morning, because I think it's a good one. And I think you're going to be much better off, whether you're working with her or you're working with somebody else. Having that knowledge and going into the process is going to help you become a much better player. But Cindy, great discussion this morning, and you always bring a lot of really good nuggets to the conversation. And congratulations again on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I know it's something that you're very proud of, and you've worked darn hard to get there. And as the old saying goes, better late than never, right? So
That's right. That's right.
better get it now before the day comes where we're both pushing up dirt. So
Yeah, exactly.
but
Thank you.
anyways, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by our very special guest, Debbie O'Connell. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Women of Golf Show. You're alongside Ted Odorico, myself, and Cindy Miller here on the show. We're very, very excited to have back one of our very special guests. She comes on every year. We're always happy to have her. She brings a ton of energy. And of course, I'm talking about Debbie O'Connell. She's an LPGA professional, a mindset coach, speaker, and author, and has so many accolades. I cannot read them all off. We would be here through the whole interview. But she possesses a unique blend of skills that extend far beyond the fairways. Her journey from an accomplished athlete to a mindset mastery expert reflects a lifelong dedication to understanding the mental intricacies of sports. And she's been a seasoned competitor in multiple sports, including basketball, bowling, and of course, golf. And her athletic prowess has catapulted her to Division I at one point, NCAA Final Four, and competing against professional bowlers and rolling 2 perfect 300 games, and all kinds of great stuff on the LPGA Tour as well. So, Cindy, let's welcome our good friend and guest back on the show.
Good morning, dear.
Good morning. And I love the new format because I get to see both of you. It's so much more personal. I love this. So, and it's always great to be here with both of you. Thank you so much for having me back.
We're thrilled you're here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. And yeah, we're excited about this. This is different for us. This is probably long overdue. And it has been something that we've been thinking about. And it's just, well, we're excited. Yeah, we're always, because it's always good. You do these shows for so long, and obviously I've seen you before at the PGA show and whatnot, and Cindy, of course, I'm sure knows you much better. But
Yeah.
we don't get to see sometimes a lot of our guests, and you're talking to them, and you develop a great rapport on over the calls and things like that, but you don't really get to see them and get to see the expressions and get to have some laughs and things like that. So this does make it much more personal. So I'm going to shut up, Cindy, and I'm going to let you start things off. I know you've got some questions for Debbie, so you go ahead and start it off and just
So
give
tell
me
us what you're up to.
I have so many things going on. It's occasionally I look and say, wow, I'm in demand. I don't want to say I'm overwhelmed, so I use a different word. A great first lesson for everybody. Your language is a key. By saying overwhelmed, we can get more stressed, but by saying I'm in demand, and I like to lower my voice when I do I'm in demand. So I have look upcoming. I have my next Conquer Your Golf Mind. I'm making some adjustments there, making it better, more concise. It'll be a 3-day challenge rather than a 5-day. So that I'm very excited about. I've been doing more and more speaking. I've teamed up with Bill Walsh. I'm on many panels with him, and I'm also looking, I have 3 corporate golf outings this summer where I run the event and I'm the keynote speaker, which I absolutely love. And then other speaking engagements along the way. And what's so interesting now that's really exciting, I have teamed up with a couple of highly successful entrepreneurs, and we are developing franchises called Links Golf Cafes.
Oh, wow.
And I'm working on developing a business golf education portion of this business. So it's it's just all so exciting because it's about, for me, not just the game of golf, but helping people to grow and transform their lives, live a happier, more joyful, successful, and fulfilling life. And I'm giving myself more and more opportunities to be out there and accomplishing that goal and helping others.
That's great.
Fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah,
Ted?
fantastic. So I want to just sort of touch on something that you said, about speaking and things like that. And as we all know, the number one fear that most people have is public speaking and things like that. So I want to ask you, because really what you do is your voice, and obviously your physical abilities out in the golf course and your teaching abilities and all that all work hand in hand. But your voice is really something that has sort of catapulted you to where you are, because you get out there and you're motivating people and that. What did you say to yourself early on that helped you get over that fear? Because that is a big fear for a lot of people, is public speaking. And how did you energize yourself and say, okay, you know what, I want to be able to help people, but I've got to be able to speak when I do it. How did you overcome that? And is that something that you've now incorporated into those lessons into what you're teaching on how to be a better you?
Well, stories are what helps people learn. And my story started when I was very young. I was so incredibly shy. I wouldn't speak to anyone outside of my immediate family. I was the little kid who held on to her mom's leg. I remember when I was in second grade, I had to get in front of the room and read 2 sentences. I was in my seat shaking. I got as small as possible, head down, hoping the teacher wouldn't remember to call on me. And she finally said, I was the last person. She finally said, Debbie, it's your turn. I was shaking. The paper was shaking. I walked up with my head down. I read the 2 sentences, and then I walked back to my seat, head down, and I was still shaking. And so anyone who is afraid of public speaking, just realize that from where I came, and this is what I did, Ted. I didn't like being shy. I found some confidence out on the athletic field. And every once in a while I'd have this burst of leadership and talking out loud. And I was like, wow. And it felt more like me. It was just fear that was stopping me to be myself in other places. I started to say to myself, what is the worst thing that can happen? Will you die?
Mm.
And my answer was always no, I won't die. And then I'd say, well, then say something. So I became pretty good at asking questions because I didn't even know what to say. I had nothing to share. So I would ask people questions just to actually start a conversation. And then when I was in ninth grade, I was just struggling with like Spanish 3. I went to my guidance counselor and I said to her, I am really struggling. I don't want to quit. I'm not a quitter, but I am not getting this. We're supposed to speak Spanish every day. And I don't understand people and I can't do it. And she said, I know you and I know you're not a quitter and you're not lazy. How about I put you in a public speaking course instead? And that was transformational because I actually found that I was comfortable in front of the room. Of course, I'd have to say, what's the worst thing that can happen if I
Right.
get up there? And then I felt comfortable there.
Yeah.
So it was quite a journey to go from really not wanting to say anything to now wanting to share so much with people.
It's funny. I was thinking in my mind when you were starting that off, because that's exactly what it was like for me in the beginning. I was super, super shy, cleaved to my mother's, leg, and didn't talk, didn't anybody, not even family, for the first probably few years. And I remember my mother sharing a story one time, and I'll be very quick, obviously, but where they were concerned there was something wrong with me, because I said, well, he should be starting to talk, some words or something. And then all of a sudden it was just like a spigot I turned on, and now it's the opposite. They can't get me to shut up. So, and Cindy can attest to that. So now it's but I had different things, and I won't get into it, but I did different things that helped me get over that as well. And obviously the show, you have to be able to speak to do this. So I want to touch on something we just got through a couple of weeks ago, the Masters tournament. Rory, of course, kind of went back and forth, had a little bit of a knee knocker there on Sunday. Wasn't sure what was going to happen. Talk about his resilience, and, how do you sort of coach around that topic as well? Talk a little bit about what you saw in that tournament with Rory, both the ups and the downs, and then how do you turn that into a teachable moment?
I love acronyms. So I came up with an acronym for being resilient just because of watching Rory's amazing final round. And I came up with RISE. And the R is recognize the setback without judgment. And I think that's what people struggle with the most, is because as soon as they hit a poor shot or have a bad hole or a double bogey the first hole of the Masters on the final day, when you went in with a lead, many people will call themselves stupid. I don't belong here. What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. And they'll put themselves down. They'll judge the event. So if we can just recognize, okay, I made a double bogey on the first hole. Other people have made a double bogey and still won the Masters.
Yep.
It just say, hey, I just hit the ball in the water. Oh, I just had a triple. Let's move on to the next hole. So you hear that, the difference without the judgment, putting self down. That's number one. Then interrupt the negative spiral. So there's a couple things we can do for that. One is this breath that you can take, a really deep breath in and then sigh it out, like you're releasing the negative energy. So in and go, you're just really letting the negative feelings out. So that'll do it. And you all know me. It's about get your head up, get your shoulders back, get in a confident physical state, get your eyes up and say, I can move forward, how you talk to yourself. And then we want to switch the S. So our I, recognize a setback, interrupt the negative spiral. Now shift to a resourceful state, which is truly staying in that more confident mode. Go to gratitude. I'm so grateful to be out here. Start to ask positive leading questions. Instead of why do I keep 3-putting? How can I make 2 putts or less? How can I still make a decent score on this hole? How can I recover right now? Positive leading questions with a positive, strong posture, and keep the positiveness in your thoughts. I've got this. I can do this. So we're going to shift to a resourceful state because we all know that we perform better. There's less tension in our body if we're in a positive frame of mind. And then the last is elevate your perspective. And this is more after the round. So you do the first 3, R, I, and S. And then afterwards, I have another mini acronym. I call it POW. After the round, look at the positives. What did I do well? Wow, I bounced back. I was positive. Every shot, I was in a great state of mind. What are my opportunities to learn? So that's what you want to look for, the opportunity so you can rise and get even better. A setback can be a setup to move forward, right? A step back on the course can be a step up the next time you play, and you can get even better, or even on the next hole. And then the W is what's next. How will I implement my learnings and get even better? So be resilient, rise, recognize a setback without judgment, interrupt the negative spiral, shift to a resourceful state, and then elevate your perspective by learning the lessons. But first, start with positive, look at the opportunities, and then ask yourself, what's next? What are the action steps I'll take to move forward? So power yourself to a better state and a better game.
Well, I feel better already. Cindy, I think we should just end the segment right here, right now, on a positive note.
Let's go
No,
play.
no need. Yeah, let's go and play. Let's get out there. No, you're exactly 100% right. And, these are things that I, learned in my journey as well. And, Cindy and I always joke about this all the time about bringing baggage out on the golf course. How many golfers, Debbie, I know you've seen it over the years as well, where just people are constantly just schlepping these, and there's more every season, seems to be that much more coming out in the golf course with, and they get out there and it's right away, all the negative speak comes in. So I want to ask you, because I know you are a mindset coach now and you really have focused on that. What do you mean when you say golf mindset, life mindset? What does that mean for you? And what is it that the messages that you're trying to convey to people?
It's all the same mindset, isn't it? I have taught so many people, and like I'll notice someone who's holding the club too tightly. No matter what I do, whatever drill, they can't seem to relax it. So I'll just throw out, I say, are you control freak everywhere or just holding a golf throw? Like, how did you know? I'm like that everywhere, right? Another client of mine, she just feels like she doesn't belong. She doesn't feel like she belongs on the golf course. And then I asked her, I said, well, where else in life don't you belong? Don't you feel like you belong? She said, actually, in many places I go, I really don't feel like I belong. So what we bring to the golf course, it's where you are in life. It's the same mindset. Golf, what I love about teaching mindset in golf is golf brings it out because you're somewhat naked on the golf course, right? If you hit a great shot, it's your fault. If you hit a bad shot, it's your fault. If it goes sideways, that's you. Right? We can try to blame it on other things, and you're the one with the club in your hand. So it truly brings out all of the challenges we experience in life in a round of golf. You go on this incredible life journey, the ups and downs, the hazards, the bunkers, the celebrations, the putts that you didn't expect to make and they go in, the craziness that happens out there, the relationships you have with the people, the requirement to be patient with slow play, sometimes like traffic, right? So there's so much that happens on the golf course that happens in life. So that's why I love to dig in of what's happening with your mindset and your mental game on the course. And then I can help shift their lives, which is really my ultimate goal. I want to bring them in because they want to play better golf.
Sure.
And then I want to change their lives.
Yeah. And, we've all often said too, golf and life mimic each other so much because you get faced with challenges, obviously, in your regular life as you do in the golf course. And if you can't navigate those challenges on either area, then it's obviously going to spill over. So obviously, if you're, again, facing with challenges in your personal life and you get out in the golf course and you can't handle them in your personal life, you're not going to handle the challenges you may be faced with out in the golf course. So, learning to become a better golfer first starts with you as an individual and how you handle yourself in everyday situations off the golf course. And then when you have that positive energy and that positive mindset, then you get out there, even if you hit a bad shot, it's like, yeah, who cares? I'm on the next shot. You know what I mean? So I get exactly what you're talking about. Cindy, go ahead. I know you've got some more things you want to.
I have two questions. What do you tell the parent who really pushes their child almost too much, and you're not positive the child really wants to be that good?
That is such a great question. Parents can be so hard on their kids that the kids end up quitting. I experienced that with some people I knew who were phenomenal basketball players. One gal I met, she got a full scholarship playing for Pat Summitt at the University of Tennessee. But her dad would scream and yell at her after every game and tell her everything she did wrong. So I encourage parents, well, and I do a girls golf program, and I have some juniors I teach to be the spectator, one. And I talk about with the kids, and then the parents are usually listening, which is great. And I usually do one meeting with the parents, and I explain to them at how we play better with a positive mindset,
Mhm.
and how kids can misinterpret what a parent is saying.
Oh, yeah.
So if a parent is only telling the kids everything they do wrong because they want them to do well, because they want them to succeed, because they love them, the child will take that as, I can't do anything right, and I have to be perfect to get a compliment. I have to be perfect to be loved, or else I disappoint my parents.
Yeah.
So when as a parent, be the encourager, be the cheerleader. Your job is to love on them no matter what, and say, did you try your best? A story I love to share with parents is, I'm friends with Nancy Lopez. I was playing in our national tournament one year, Cindy, and I played pretty badly the first day, 80 whatever. I don't know what it was. Nancy wrote me a text, hey, how'd you play today? And I said, I didn't play well at all. Her question to me wasn't, well, what'd you shoot? It was, did you try your best on every shot? And I thought about it for a moment. And I was like, you know what? I never gave up. I kind of used rise without knowing rise. And I got myself in a positive state, believed in myself, talked about it. And I wrote back and I said, yes, I did. And she said, then you should be very proud of yourself. And if more parents would adopt that, just ask the kid, did you try your best today? What did you learn today? What great things did you do on the course today? Pow, what were the positives? And you know what? Can we learn something to get better? Would you like to get better? Because you can. I believe in you. Then your child will not only enjoy the experience and the journey, they may fall in love with golf. They'll know that you love and care about them, which is your job as the parent,
Right.
and they will continue to get better. So it's teaching the parents about positivity in a way that says, we know you love your child and you want what's best. Your child may misinterpret some things. I am going to teach them. I am going to, as the coach, get them where we know they can get to. Your job is to love on them the whole time.
Perfect.
I agree.
What about the child? I've got a young teenager who's never really even played 9 holes and kept score, who browbeats herself. And I said, look at me. I said, you don't even know how good that is. That was great. No, it wasn't. I said, yes, it was. I said, pat yourself on the back. That was awesome. And she just doesn't get it. And I'm like, wow, where is this negative voice coming from?
Yeah. Well, that's life, right? She does that everywhere in life. And that's a good conversation for you to have. Where else do you put yourself down? Oh, I'm never good enough. Obviously, she has that.
And that's
going on.
her dad
from
stands there, and it's not her dad. It's not her dad.
So here's what I'd suggest, Cindy. You can print out some emojis or just use negative and positive thinking. It's like a muscle testing. Have her put her arm out. Have her even say, my name is, and have her say her real name. And you push down and let her resist, and do the same pressure every time. And then have her say something like positive, I am strong. And then you'll notice she's very strong. Then you could either show her an emoji, a negative emoji, a crying one, or have her say, my name is Cindy, if it's not Cindy. And you will notice and say, I'm going to put the same pressure. She will be weak. Or have her say, I am terrible at golf. I hit bad shots all the time. She will be weak. So when you can physically show them, it'll click. And say, look, if your muscles don't work as well with some negative thinking with us just standing here, imagine what you're doing to your golf game. And the goal for us isn't to be perfect today. It's for you to continue to get better. And sometimes hitting a poor shot helps you get better faster. Just talking to her, she's not going to hear it because her beliefs are so strong that she's not good enough, no matter what she does.
Right.
But if you show her, so then maybe start the process. I had a teenager came to me. She said the word stressed like every other word. This was stressed. I'm stressed. I'm stressed. I'm stressed. This stresses me out. So I said, let's pick another word. How about striving? So anytime you go to say stressed, go, I am just striving
Yeah.
or I'm blessed. If that word works for
Yeah.
someone, I am so blessed. Yeah. Which is even better than stressed. Right. So we're blessed. We're blessed that we have these opportunities that are stressing us to learn. I'm
Right.
so blessed because I'm going to learn something. I'm going to grow because we're on a journey. It's a long journey too.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's interesting, Debbie, because we see in our line of work, as with really any profession, you see when you're working with students, and it doesn't matter what age it is, you see them take themselves and just over time chisel away at their self-esteem, chisel away at their positive nature. And, think about how many tour professionals who are out there and can just hit like the wind. I mean, they're just phenomenal out there. But inside somewhere, they're saying, I'm not going to win this tournament. So I'm just going to be happy if I do this. And, sometimes it's okay to settle, but if you're not moving yourself forward and you're just sort of in a hovering pattern all the time, you're never going to improve in anything that you do. And I think so many people talk, and just to touch on something Cindy said, the dad's around. It's not, the dad doesn't have to necessarily say anything negative. It can just be an expectation that child senses from that parent. Even if the father, at a girl or at a boy or whatever the case may be, if they feel that they're not living up to their parents' expectations, it doesn't matter what that parent says. It's what they feel inside themselves. And a lot of people, adults included, fall into that category. And there just comes a point in time you have to shed that skin off and you have to say, I'm going to do away with this. And as you said, I feel blessed, I'm striving, or whatever. You have to replace those negative words with positive reinforcement words. And I think once you do that, you become a much happier person. And when you become happier, you see results in all aspects of your life. And I think that's just something that we all have to strive for. And it's the thing is, Cindy, we were having a conversation earlier. We were talking about how a lot of these junior golfers come in with, they're looking for the end result. I want to play D1, or I want to be, the next Michelle Wee or whoever it is that they want to be. But they don't focus on the process, what they need to do to get there. So their eye is on the prize all the time, but they don't look at what they need to do to get there. So they just come in with unrealistic expectations, and they say, okay, I want to be, the next college, player out there, captain of my team, and then I want to transfer on to the pro tours afterwards. But I'm going to sleep until noon every day, and so on and so forth. So when you're dealing with that type of situation, it goes beyond just a positive mindset, but it also becomes a motivational factor. What are some of the things that you've done? Just maybe give us an example to help motivate some of these folks out there that you're working with.
I like to actually figure out what they value about golf, what's important to them about golf at the unconscious level.
Right.
Sometimes that's off, where consciously we may think we want to play in college, where unconsciously it's to prove I'm worthy, or a negative, what I like to call away from motivation. And I go there because I want to know unconsciously, because if we're out of alignment, I'll give you an example. I had a client who, when we did we call it a values elicitation. What's the motivation is you're striving because something's important to you, right? So we go through this process, and she found on her list playing well was actually not even on it. And she said, Debbie, it's so fascinating. When I play, I'm always beating myself up every time I have a bad shot on the conscious level. Unconsciously, it's not even that important to me. It was being with my friends, being outside in nature, getting some exercise, being in a beautiful environment. Like, it was all travel. It was so many other things that were important to her consciously. So she's out of alignment, where unconsciously she just wants to have a great time, and then consciously she wants to hit great shots. When she understood that, she started to relax and enjoy her friends and be more in alignment. She started playing better. because she was looser, relaxed. She let the club swing, and she had more fun along the way. So it's important to find out, okay, what's important to you about golf? What is your motivation? Because we know if your why is strong enough, you'll do the work.
Mhm.
And you want it to be towards a positive, because we get more of what we focus on.
Right.
Energy flows where focus goes. So we don't want it to be, I want to play golf to help my parents love me more, because I know they'd be proud of me if I can play great golf. That's very much an away from, and the focus is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right. So it's finding out, asking yourself, what's important to me about golf? What else is important to me about golf? And then keep going deeper and deeper to really try to find out what you love, or just write a list. What do you love about it? And find the actual motivation to play the game and what you love, and then stay in that space, because then you'll enjoy the journey the whole time.
Yeah, I think it really does come down to what motivates you, and if you're doing anything in life, whether it's golf or otherwise, if you're doing something at the behest of somebody else, if it's not to make you happy or enjoyment or provide enjoyment for you, and you're doing it solely to impress or receive affirmation from somebody else, and your motivation, your reasons for doing so are not really what you want to be doing. We all want to please, our parents or family, friends, and things like that to a certain degree. We don't want them to be angry. We want them to be happy. But if you're doing it solely for that purpose, you're never going to really truly enjoy what you do, and you're just doing it for somebody else's benefit, and that's not the way to go. But Debbie, want to give you just a quick moment as we wrap up here to let the folks know if they want to reach out and get some more positive mindset, how they can do that. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, check out my website, debbie-o'connell.com. I have on there, it comes up, May 14th through 16th, I have a Conquer Your Golf Mind 3-day challenge. If you've liked anything I've shared today, it's that and more, so much more. And it will help you really break through the mental obstacles. You can also, if you have your phone right there, just text the word yes to 727-339-0106. So text yes to 727-339-0106. And if I may, I'd love to give your listeners a gift. If they use the coupon code CONQUER50, they'll get $50 off the already incredible. Cindy, when I told her what I charged for this, she's like, that's not enough. Like, what are you doing? It's about $1,000 value that I put on special for $97. So it's 90 minutes a day of me just pouring in, and we'll have some activities, and we exchange, you ask questions. It's a very powerful course. And so I'd love to share that with everybody. And Cindy, I'm sorry, I'm still keeping it low. I want to reach as many people as possible, and I don't want price to be in the way for anyone. So, but thank you for that. And then I'm on, just look up Debbie O'Connell or Golf Positive. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Perfect. Well, as always, you you elevate the excitement on the show. It'll bring so much positive, and we're going to get out there and enjoy our day. But we want to thank you, Debbie, for being our guest. And you're always welcome. Just you've got the link to the calendar. If you want to come back on a little bit later on in the season, just go ahead and plug yourself in. We're always happy to make room for you. But we want to thank our very special guest, Debbie O'Connell, today. And on behalf of Cindy and I, we want to do whatever we can to help make your golf journey a positive experience. Get out there, practice, play, do whatever makes you happy, and just be positive. God bless everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Women of Golf, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Debbie, so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye. So
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's Women of Golf show. Ted and Cindy wish to thank this week's special guests. Remember to join them every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the iGolf Sports Network, or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on the show, you can follow the Women of Golf's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/womenofgolf. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.